Hello everyone and welcome back to Mayar Media. In this video, we'll talk about the rise of the American dollar as the global reserve currency and its future in the wake of current trends towards de-dollarization. In July 1944, 44 allied nations came together and signed what was known as the Bretton Woods Agreement with the aim of rebuilding the international monetary system, stabilizing exchange rates, and promoting economic growth and development in the post-war era. The agreement established the IMF and the World Bank and introduced a new system of fixed exchange rates in which participating countries agreed to maintain the value of their currencies within a narrow margin against the dollar, which, in turn, was pegged to gold at a fixed rate of $35 per ounce. Why, you might ask, was the US dollar chosen as the central currency in the Bretton Woods system? Well, America's economic dominance and stability in the post-war period played a significant role. The US held a large portion of the world's gold reserves, and its economy was relatively unscathed by the war. This made the dollar a stable and secure anchor for the new monetary system. In the wake of Bretton Woods, the dollar also became the primary currency for international trade and investment and was widely accepted as a medium of exchange. Central banks held it to maintain the fixed exchange rates of their own currencies, but they also held it as a store of value. While the Bretton Woods system eventually broke down in 1971, when President Richard Nixon ended the direct convertibility of the US dollar to gold, the dollar still retained its status as the global reserve currency. This was because it was widely used and because America had a strong, sizable economy and stable financial markets. Another thing that helped to further solidify the American dollar's stronghold was the rise of petrodollars. Petrodollars are the dollars earned by oil exporting countries through the sale of petroleum, and in the early 1970s, OPEC agreed to denominate their oil sales exclusively in US dollars due to its widespread acceptance and stability. OPEC, which still exists today, stands for Organization of Petroleum Exporting Countries and includes major oil producers like Saudi Arabia, Iran, Iraq, and Venezuela. This agreement by OPEC created a steady demand for US currency, and petrodollars provided oil exporting countries with significant revenues. These revenues were often reinvested into the global economy with the purchase of US Treasury securities, investment into American assets, or the purchase of goods and services from the US and other countries that accepted the dollar. The petrodollar system also worked well for America by allowing it to finance its trade deficits and government spending through the sale of Treasury securities to oil exporting countries. It worked so well, in fact, that it effectively allowed the US to import goods and services by exporting dollars, which then circulated back into the American economy through various channels. The US dollar has reigned supreme for several decades, but in recent years has begun to lose its appeal as the global reserve currency. While the dollar still accounts for over 60% of global trade, concerns around de-dollarization are gaining traction, and in the last quarter of 2022, central banks worldwide held less than 59% of their foreign exchange reserves in dollars, down from 70% in 2000. The allure of the dollar is gradually diminishing due to several factors, including sanctions, debt, and geopolitical tensions. A primary reason for the dollar's diminishing appeal is the risk associated with antagonizing the US. A single misstep can result in harsh sanctions, which the US has the ability to impose because of its control over the international reserve currency. This allows it to target countries, individuals, and organizations that defy its policies. Russia is a prominent case since $300 billion worth of Russia's foreign currency reserves were frozen in the aftermath of its invasion of Ukraine, while major Russian banks were expelled from the interbank messaging system. As a result of this, many countries are growing increasingly cautious. The dollar's rapid appreciation has also had severe consequences for emerging economies, especially those holding large volumes of dollar-denominated debt. Countries like Pakistan are now struggling to repay loans obtained from international organizations such as the IMF, and are also experiencing a considerable increase in their overall cost of living as the prices of imported essentials such as fuel and food are driving inflation through the roof. To address the vulnerability in their domestic markets, Asian nations from Malaysia to China have begun considering the establishment of the Asian Monetary Fund, or the AMF, to offer financial protection and stability and diminish the dollar's global dominance. If you've enjoyed this video so far, please like it and subscribe to our channel. It's free for you to do, but supports our team more than you know. Now back to the video. In the midst of all these developments, it's essential to realize that the rise of the dollar as a global reserve currency is not a new phenomenon. Before the dollar, the British pound reigned supreme as the global reserve, buoyed by the formidable and ubiquitous British Empire. In his book, The Changing World Order, Ray Dalio elucidates the rise and fall of global reserve currencies throughout history. According to him, the average cycles of great empires typically last for around 250 years, and before a pivotal shift, a dominant and a rising economy coexist, locked in a battle for supremacy. During World War II, for example, the UK was the prevailing dominant economic power, while the US was its rapidly rising competitor. Inevitably, one of these forces was bound to stumble, and the United States triumphed in this instance. The 1944 Bretton Woods Agreement marked a turning point, establishing the dollar as the foremost global reserve currency. History, however, teaches us that all reserve currencies eventually yield to newer contenders in a process that spans years, if not decades. As things stand today, new modes of payment are now gaining popularity as countries seek to reduce their reliance on the American dollar. The BRICS nations, which include Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa, for instance, are aiming to try and facilitate trade in other countries by transitioning current settlements to national currencies before progressing to a new digital currency. Other examples include China and France's yuan-settled LNG trade, Russia's substitution of the dollar with the Chinese yuan amid geopolitical tensions, and China and Brazil's agreement to trade in their own currencies. India has also implemented measures to facilitate trade in Indian rupees, while Indonesia is following BRICS' lead in de-dollarization and exploring ways to pay for international trade without the US dollar. While the dollar has yet to be officially dethroned, given its enduring influence and how entrenched it is in the global economy, the rise of alternative currencies and the growing desire to diversify economic relationships are a strong signal that the future of the dollar as the global reserve currency is increasingly uncertain.